My bad. What up, New York Giant Nation? It's your boy Mac the Giants fan. Here with my guy, the super dope co-host, Adam Costas. Y'all know what time it is. Time for that real deal NFC East round up. Now punch that intro. What up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Real Deal NFC East Roundup. I am Mac the Giants fan here with my guy, the super dope co-host Adam Costas. Man, how you feeling today, Adam?
I am feeling great. We finally have come over the hump of preseason of training camp. We actually have games to talk about, so this is fantastic. I'm enjoying every minute of it.
What's going on? What's up, Mosley, man? Thanks for popping in, man. Appreciate it. Good to see you always, brother. And what's up, Coach Ed, man? Peace and blessings to you, Coach Ed, man. Hope you're doing good, man.
Coach Ed, man, how are you?
But yeah, man, let's get right to it, man. Let's dig right on there, man. We got some football games to talk about a little bit this weekend. Get to see the whole rest of the league now. Get some unleashed, get preseason underway, man. Let's start talking with these Washington Commanders, who actually do play the first game out of this division on Friday when they play Friday against the Dolphins. But before that, man, let's just talk about some of your latest news things you've been hearing from Washington Commanders camp, Adam.
Well, I've been hearing, that Stefon Diggs has been looking the part. I know last week we mentioned to you guys that he possibly will be coming through the door, because again, that was a rumor. We didn't know. There was Ayuk and some other people out there. So now that he's there and he's back, that's interesting to see. And the money that he got, $12 million, he looks like he has gotten better off that ACL injury from a couple years ago. And he looks better than he was with the Patriots. And I'm going to be intrigued to see what happens with them. Now on the other side, staying on the offense, but on the other side of the line, they lost Laremy Tunsil. Which is kind of par for the course for the Commanders. They seem to always have something happen with their offensive line in the beginning of the year that kind of staggers them. There are some free agents out there that might be able to help them, and we'll see if they pick up anybody or acquire anybody as the preseason and heading to the regular season begins. But those are some of the news and notes. I mean, Jaden Daniels is, he's getting his feet under him, so there was some rustiness to him. But now he seems to be hitting a stride with the rest of the team. And I just think we'll see how this impacts going forward. I know somebody made a joke or a meme where, they see Stefon Diggs talking to Jaden Daniels' mom, and then they're like, oh, well, I give it 3 weeks before he wrecks the team. And that is a big factor when you're bringing in a guy like a Stefon Diggs and another guy that we're going to talk about in a little bit that's also coming in for a visit for an NFC East team. That's the dynamic. Are you worried about? Now, I'm sure they vetted him. I'm sure they asked him all the questions they needed to ask him, and he came through with flying colors. But he looks ready to play, and he looks primed to play. Like I said, on the other side, Adam Peters, your job to find Laremy Tunsil's replacement. But those are a couple of things that you guys obviously know about, but we wanted to talk about and touch on here. I think it is a big blow for them. But I think it gives somebody a chance to kind of step up and be that guy. They lost Tunsil. It's not the first time they've lost Tunsil for an extended period of time. Right, so if there's any team that knows how to deal with it, it's them. Plus, you have Jaden Daniels, who hopefully can help out a left tackle, and you're getting Ben Sinnott as a tight end. Maybe he can help chip block and stuff. So let's see what David Bilal comes up with going forward to try to help with this deficiency.
What is going on in the chat? Clinton Jones, man. Good to see you, my brother. Thanks for popping in. And Ludwig, man, good to see you too, brother. Thanks for popping in, man. Good to always see y'all here, man. But yeah, Washington. I mean, one of the big things I've been noticing since training camps and stuff got underway is Jaden Daniels, man, is really rounding back in the form, man. From after an injury play season a year ago, this kid's been sharp and camping. And adding to Stefon Diggs just gives him another really, really reliable weapon, somebody that you can that you can count on. You know what I mean? Somebody that they can believe, somebody that can help this offense be a little more explosive. I think on the other hand, like you mentioned, the Laramie Tunsil thing is the one thing that's a little bit troubling, especially when you think about the injury situation with Jaden Daniels a year ago, and now your all-pro left tackle is going to be out for a while. Apparently, Brandon Coleman apparently is going to be getting, from what I was reading, is going to be getting the first opportunity to take over that spot for Jeff Laramie Tunsil. Is going to probably be out. Let's face it. I mean, he may be able to get back in late into the season, but it'll be late. I mean, we're talking about maybe like near like December type range, probably, man, at this point. So it's going to be a tough blow how they're going to have to rebound now. Unfortunately for them, it happened at a time where they do have an opportunity, have a little time to try to regroup and find maybe somebody that can step in. I would say replacement, but you're not really going to find somebody that's just going to outright replace Laramie Tunsil. I mean, this guy is an absolute one of the best tackles in football, and that's going to be a big blow. But the weapons they seem to be putting around Terry McLaurin, around Jaden Daniels, which includes Terry McLaurin, obviously Stephon Diggs, just hearing a lot of good things about the chemistry they're building down there. And Antonio Williams is another guy, another receiver, the rookie receiver, also making a lot of good flashing at camp a lot. So I think this Washington Commanders team, like I said, Jaden Daniels is going to be the key. But as long as they can keep Jaden Daniels healthy, this team could be, they could surprise some people, man. I think people are counting them out a little bit, but I think they can surprise some people.
I mean, you're right. They might surprise people. We'll find out the gate. I see what people don't understand about the Stephon Diggs thing now is that it adds another element to their offense they haven't had. When's the last time you've seen the Commanders have a second receiver that you were scared of? A legit second receiver. Again, if he makes it to, training camp, he's doing well now. So Commanders, who a lot of us, myself included, have kind of counted them out, they're not counting themselves out. And we'll see. I heard Sonny Styles is looking good on that side of the football. The defense is kind of, making plays and giving you some hope. And getting back to my Stephon Diggs point on offense is now you have to defend the whole field, right? Because usually you could take out Terry McLaurin. You're not really worried about Zach Ertz. I mean, he was there, but he was an older guy. He wasn't like the same player that commanded the same attention that he did when he was younger. But now you have a guy in Stephon Diggs who is going to command that attention. It's going to open up more lanes, going to open up more running lanes for not only Daniels, but the running backs. You're not going to be able to put 9 in the box to stop the run because you got 2 guys that can beat you over the top. So then what does that mean? Well, how do I commit? Do I drop the safeties back? Now that leaves a lot of guys against Jaden Daniels, and maybe he gets chunk yardage, and picks up first downs after first downs. So I am really interested to see how they use the chess piece that is Stephon Diggs in this offense, and see what he can do to help Terry McLaurin open his game up. Because, again, Terry McLaurin is the elder statesman of the group, is still technically a number one, but you can't get there's better duos in the NFC East, but overall in football, McLaurin and Stephon Diggs are pretty good tandem to have on your team. I'm sure there's plenty of teams that would take that tandem right now. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings to this offense and how it opens it up. Because if they score, let's say they score roughly 25, 26 points a game, they're not out of the realm of possibilities of them being able to kind of stop the run a little bit and keep some opponents out of the end zone and put the pressure on the other side, which will help them. Because if they're doing that, right, and they're making big plays and getting big plays, because Stephon Diggs hit some big plays for Patriots last year, deep downfield. And I think he's going to be able to do that with Jaden Daniels as they build that chemistry. So I'm excited. I hate to say that I'm excited to see it, but as an NFL fan, you've got to be excited to see it in the division, because you're like you want competition. I want all the best to be against us. That shows you how you line of demarcation. And they clearly upgraded that receiver room immensely. I have to say that I think they leapfrogged the Eagles here right now, and definitely the Giants in terms of their receiving core.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've been having some joint practices with Miami Dolphins. I guess the last couple of days maybe, and their defense right now has been really showing off with these joint practices, man. Kavon Chason has just been all over the place and with the pass rush, a lot of like potential sacks, during the joint practices with the Miami Dolphins. And Mike Sanders still making plays out there. Had a big interception today and pick six on Malik Willis. I mean, it's hard to figure what to make it is because we're talking about the Miami Dolphins, who are most likely going to be one of the absolute worst teams in the league, if not the worst team in the league. So it's, but at the end of the day, I mean, they're out there hitting against somebody else that's not, not each other. And apparently defense is stepping up, rising to the occasion, making some plays, man. They do have some question marks, I mean, on the back end of this defense still. I think that still need to come to fruition. But I think overall the defense, I mean, it's kind of good. It's kind of, good to hear some good things coming from this defense, about this defense, because it was, to me, it was a huge question mark coming in leading up to training camp. And obviously we saw what they got from this defense a year ago, which wasn't good enough. So if you had any thoughts on their defense or the joint practices with the Dolphins?
Well, I know you mentioned something about, it's the Dolphins and maybe we shouldn't look into it. You have to take certain things out of it, right? Like, yes, it's the Dolphins, but at the same time, the Commanders have to build confidence. So if they're beating on a team that's, far less inferior than them, that's a good sign, right? You would be more concerned if Miami was dominating them, right? If the narrative was the other way, they looked awful, we would come on here and say, oh my God, their defense hasn't done anything. But because even though it is Miami, who, by the way, has Javon Achane, that's no slouch at running back. They have a quarterback in Malik Willis, who's not like it's his first rodeo. Okay, they touted this guy in Green Bay. He got a high-end deal. It's not like they're playing, Garner Minshew or somebody out there that is not supposed to be good. Malik Willis is supposed to be a good player. So if you're getting some stops on him and you're taking advantage of him right now early on in practice, that can only boast well for them, especially with what they've heard all year. Now, again, I'm taking the opponent into consideration, but again, if we were to do this and this was a regular season game and they were dominating Miami, we'd be like, oh, well, it's Miami. But at the end of the day, they dominated. Now, if Miami is a bad team, like you say, and they're keeping up with the Commanders, we'd be on the opposite end. So you've got to just take it as this, is that you're glad that they're executing. You're glad that they're looking good against an NFL team, regardless of who it is, a team that is a strong run team, by the way. Miami does have a solid run game. Again, Mike McDaniels is not there anymore. Jeff Hafley is, so he's going to run a little bit of a different offense than what McDaniels ran. But he said himself he's going to get Achane 40 carries a game. His words, not mine. So that means they're going to be a predominantly run team. So if they're doing things against the run and a guy like Chason having a good camp, that's what you pay him for. That's why you got him from the Patriots. And if they can be a middle of the road defense, right? We're not talking about gangbusters. I don't need them even top 10. Probably in the low 20s. They probably can make a playoff run, right? With that kind of defense, because you're, especially if Jaden Daniels in the offense is healthy. Now, if this is the same thing as last year and he's banged up, that's where we'll find out how good their defense is to carry this team and get the ball back. Because that's a lot of what happened last year was they couldn't get off the field in certain situations, even when the offense would put them in good situations. So if they are healthy and they are buying into this new system that is being run, right, which I think the guy came from Seattle, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's where he came from. So it's going to be interesting to watch them play. And I'm looking forward. I hate to say this because we're Giant fans, but I'm looking forward to seeing how Sonny Styles does. I'm actually going to keep tabs on all three defenders of Ohio State. Well, actually, all four players I can draft in the top 10, but all three defenders I'm going to keep tabs on because I want to really find out how they all evolve, right? Because believe it or not, all three players were in the Giants' radar at some point in fashion throughout the draft, right? Whether it was Caleb Downs, whether it was Arvell Reese less so than the other two, but it definitely was Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs. I can't wait to kind of watch and see how they evolve.
I mean, yeah, I feel you. I mean, like you said, it's not so much excitement as it's just curiosity. I'm curious, I mean, I was a football fan. I mean, like I said, I love the Giants, but also just love football in general. And those are guys, big names in this offseason that obviously, like you said, New York, their names were rumored all around the New York Giants, draft boards, all during that process. So I get it, man, and kind of do want to just see the fact that they're all in the NFC East makes it interesting. You know what I mean? See, all three of these guys, these top three defenders out of Ohio State, all end up in the NFC East. That's just kind of end up being kind of weird, just the way it all played out. But they have some injury concerns as well in Washington. Laremy Tunsil, obviously the biggest of those concerns, but Trey Amos is also another guy that is starting. It's time to get maybe a little bit worried. Trey Amos missed all of the spring work, out with the injury, was out sidelined throughout with the ankle injury, whatever, doing all through the spring work, couldn't do anything in the spring. And now here he is banged up again. Yet again, same ankle injury, just resurfaced. This could be something kind of a lingering thing with them. And honestly, he's a valuable piece on their back end. I mean, right now, because they're kind of thin back there. And Trey Amos is the guy that they were really going to be counting on. And this might not be overly serious right now, maybe not too much cause for concern, but at the end of the day, he's missing important reps right now while a new defense is being installed. And he's a valuable piece. And then their center, Nick Allegretti, the same deal. He's been out for pretty much most of the training camp thus far as well. And I mean, they're already down Laremy Tunsil on the offensive line. They can't afford to be down the starting center as well. So I mean, I don't know if you think about some of their injury issues and how this could affect them.
Well,
get ready for their first preseason.
I don't know exactly the state of the injuries, right? Because yes, they are bad, but again, we are talking about August 12th here. The season's a month away. Let's see how they progress. Holding them out sometimes, even with a new offense and defense, hurts. But you don't necessarily need to worry about them if they don't make it to the 53. That's when you'll be concerned. If he's on the PUP list or something like that, that's when I would be really, really, really concerned. But as long as they make the 53, somebody said it best. It's about the long term of the season, right? Sure, you want him for week one, but let's be honest. When you're looking at your week one opponent in the Eagles, I might really need two corners to stop them with Devontae Smith and question mark on the other side. Like, I know people like Devontae Wicks or whatever that guy's name is, but you don't need a starting caliber corner to cover that guy. I'm sorry. You don't. So if I'm Dan Quinn and I'm looking at Trey Amos in the long term, I'm saying to myself, well, let's see when we can get him back. Let's not rush him because I know our opponents. The guy behind him, Saren's still doing well. I know they brought in a couple other corners that they're doing. Rasul Douglas, I think, is also here. So we can stay afloat with those guys while we wait for Trey Amos. Obviously, we want Amos, but we have other guys who we can kind of lean on to get us through the patchwork. Now, as for the offensive line, again, both these guys have been out, right? So they've had guys in there in place. So the center thing I'm not as worried about because they've had that longer in terms of injury. So they had more time to adjust as opposed to Laremy Tunsil, who recently just happened. So now you have to kind of make adjustments on the fly. And again, things could happen. People get cut. A lot of teams have a surplus of talent at this point. Remember, every team has 90 guys. We haven't even met their cut down day yet. And this year, cut down day and the start of the regular season, I think, is almost 2 weeks when the start of the regular season goes. We're going, I think the last cut down day is the 28th of August or something like that. And then you have Labor Day weekend, and then you have the following week when you actually need your roster to be really set. I mean, it's going to be set before then, but you know what I mean. You're going to have a chance to make some transactions and some moves and get some guys up to speed here. And judging by the list of people that I've seen, they'll be able to fill that need at some point. But I think having the center already out and already established as an injury doesn't concern me yet, and we'll see how it progresses as we go. Again, these guys were injured last year, so they made some adjustments last year. The good thing is you have the same coaching staff, right, or similar coaching staff, minus David Bilal. I don't know if I think Bilal was part of the team last year too, if I'm not mistaken. But what I'm getting at is they have evaluations on these guys. They have guys who've been here in the offense or in the system, or at least know their language and their culture and their mindset. So you're not necessarily getting guys off the street when you have a center that was already out. So that's why I'm looking at those injuries right now. Again, are they concerning? To me, not at the moment. We'll see how it comes down the regular season. But I think they're doing this for the bigger picture. Like, hey, let's get them back for more games during the regular season, then push them for week 1.
What's going on in the chat? Joe Ferry's in the chat. What's going on, my brother? Says I feel less good about the Giants the closer we get to the season.
Why?
I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. We're gonna talk about them later, though. We'll talk about it, but we got some things to talk about when we get to those guys. But and says Mosey here says you're not alone, Joe. I mean, look, guys. I know it's been some rough years, but like, and I get it. We don't want to get overboard with the excitement. But at the end of the day, I think we have a lot to be excited about. We'll talk about it in a little. We'll talk about them.
Right. When we get to that segment, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Because I think that if after Mac and I speak on the team, you might have a different mindset.
Yeah. As far as Washington, let's get ready to kind of wrap these guys up a little bit.
Blue time. What? Don't they have a game?
They do have a game against the Miami Dolphins on Friday evening, and Dan Quinn hasn't made any official announcements. But I would almost think that they've been doing the joint practices with the Dolphins. Probably won't see too much of their starters, especially considering the success Jaden Daniels has had this week in the joint practices. Probably don't feel like you much need to see from him, putting them out there potentially with the patchwork offensive line that's in front of them right now. I don't know if he's gonna go there. I don't know if I would expect to see Jaden Daniels on Friday out there, but I would think you're gonna see most of the younger guys, like I said, guys are talking about like the Antonio Williams, the wide receiver they drafted. I'm sure we'll maybe get some reps from Sonny Styles, maybe just get a little taste of some NFL action, stuff like that. But I don't know what could you really possibly expect?
Well, I mean, in a game like this, what I'm looking for is some of their young guys, if they play them right. We don't know who their starters are, and because the Washington has a lot of depth, you're going to see a lot more depth players play. I don't expect to see Jaden Daniels, but I do expect to see Mariota, and I think if they have Sam Hartman still, him on the roster. And I want to see some of these backup tight ends, some of these backup defensive players and these cornerbacks who's going to earn a spot on the roster. I mean, their depth wasn't great last year. This is a chance for them to see if they can get more out of what these guys learned. Some of them are still young, and I'm intrigued to see what they're going to bring to the table. Obviously, you can't get much from Miami because it's going to be very vanilla, but you're definitely probably going to see Sonny Styles out there. So I'm definitely going to look forward to seeing him. He's a rookie. You got to get him some NFL action. I don't care what anybody. You can miss me with you don't want his first game to be against the Eagles, against Saquon Barkley, and not having hit anybody. I'm sorry. Just don't do it. Yeah, I know about injuries. Injuries happen he could get injured going out to play the Eagles on the first game. So don't do that. Give him some reps. Let him get his feet wet. Do you want him in there the whole game? No, obviously not. But get him in a couple series and let him get lathered up and hit. And this is the first time this guy hit since January, or depending on how long they went in the playoffs, December. And it's in the big boy league. So let him play. And then the running game. I want to see who kind of rises to the top in their running back room. They have Jacoby Korski-Merritt there, but they have Jerome Ford, they have Rashad White, they have a couple of Nichols, and then they have
Kaytron Allen,
Kaytron Allen, who he's going to get some burn. So I want to see how he kind of performs, because this is probably, if any game, this will probably be the game he gets the most reps, because he's a rookie, obviously, and the other guys, White and Ford, like I said, are a little older. You may need them for the regular season, depending on what your plans are and how they've gone through camp. So there's some things to look forward to, as well as their offensive line. Who is going to step up and emerge as that second tackle, or will they find a guy on the roster to replace Larry Tunsil? Let's be honest, you can't replace a Larry Tunsil. Those guys are hard to replace, but at least a guy that can come in and step in. So there's a lot, I think, riding on this preseason for this Commander team. You want to build some chemistry. You want some of the new guys to get acclimated to their system that they're doing. Thankfully for you got a guy familiar with Dan Quinn, and the system's not going to change much. And you're not going to see much in terms of their defensive scheme, but you can get some guys and some ideas. So and then the receiving core. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is not going to play, and Terry McLaurin. but you get to see the third receiver who's going to emerge from that group. These are the type of things I'm looking for in all the games, not just all the games, but specifically in some of these games with these teams that are kind of in transition.
And Joe here in the chat says, no way Jaden Daniels doesn't miss games without learning. Well, look, I mean, I'm not hoping. I hope he don't get hurt. Like I said, I need Jaden Daniels for all 17. You know, I mean, well, not 17. I need him for the first. I need him for like the first, 14. That's about all I need him for. After that, whatever. But what's going on, Uncle G, man? Appreciate you popping in, man. He said, "What's up, Mac? Y'all ready, man? We gonna be dog walking so many teams this year. It's gonna be wild. We gonna see, man. We can get to them in a minute, man, a little bit, man. But get ready to move on and talk about the Philadelphia Eagles for a little bit, I think, man. And let's see what they got going on. What did the Eagles have going on, Adam? What you got? What you been hearing coming out of Eagles camp? They had a walkthrough today. They didn't do much today.
I mean, there's a social media meme going out there that with Jalen Hurts throwing a horrible pass to his receiver, and that's getting buzz. But the Eagles, for me, obviously you heard the news of Lane Johnson. This is going to be his last year. I kind of want to see in the preseason who's going to emerge again as their second back and what they're going to kind of run. And their quarterback competition to me for their backup is really intriguing. You have Kyle McCord, right? You have Tanner McKee, and you have the kid from North Dakota State who is, what's his name again, Mac? I forget. Is eludes.
Oh, Cole Payton.
Yeah, Cole Payton, who I've heard people talk. I've talked to some Eagle fans, and they're like, "Oh, Eagles love him. He was coming in, So this is a chance to get to see him with live bullets and live reps. You saw what the kid did in Carolina, who they brought in. Everybody was raving about him. So there's another undrafted quarterback that might get some more. And the way that they're feeling right there, over there, there's a lot of hanging heads in Philadelphia, or at least some people are saying that they're not going to be as good. And how are they going to compete with no receivers? And they haven't really looked fantastic in camp, but they've done what they needed to do, I guess. And they're still the champions, so I will respect them in that regard. And they still have a solid defense with Vic Fangio. So we'll see how that all comes together. But don't count out the Eagles just yet. But again, I'm looking forward to their quarterback battle this year, because Tanner McKee was getting buzz in trade talks and trade rumors, right? And there's a lot of teams out there who are in need of quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks on their team that Tanner McKee could be had. They're definitely not going to keep 4 quarterbacks, even if they keep Peyton. If they like that guy and somebody else kind of sees him in preseason and he does well, he can end up on somebody else's roster or somebody else's team. So what are you going to do, right? And Kyle McCord, you invested a draft pick in him last year as well. What are you going to do there? And with the plethora of quarterbacks that go down in this league and backups that aren't quality or young guys you can't take a chance on, there's going to be teams that are going to want a Kyle McCord or a Cole Payton just to kind of see what they got. And worst case scenario, he's a backup on their roster. At best case, they get a guy who's like a Brock Purdy and they find a diamond in the rough. So I'm intrigued by that and seeing how that plays out, because Hurts is not safe. They haven't signed Hurts, right? So let's hypothetically play this out. He doesn't have a great season, or he is banged up, and Tanner McKee comes in, or Kyle McCord comes in, and the Eagles don't miss a beat. You think the Eagle fans are going to say, "Oh, let's sign Jalen Hurts to more money"? No, they're going to say, "Let's ride with Kyle McCord or Tanner McKee." So it's a very short leash that he's on this year. And if they don't come out the gates flying, and if I'm Sean Mannion, this is what I'm doing. I'm looking at 26. I'm bringing him into my office. I'm sitting him down. I'm saying, how do you feel about getting 2,500 yards this season? I feel great about it, Coach. Okay, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn around and give you the ball. That's it. Don't complicate this and try to be in shotgun and do things that Hurts can't do. Do what you do best. Do what you pay your playmakers to do. And we'll see if that works out. We'll find out. It comes to fruition this week.
Yeah. Let me get to these comments real quick. Joe Ferry says, "Hey, got Slim Sleeper and Malibu's most wanted at wide receiver. Might be okay if they can stay healthy." He says, "Yeah, but the Eagles always trying to do some fraud on other GMs. with quarterback trades. But look, you brought that with the wide receiver comment. That brings up to the first point that I was going to bring up, man. This it's been tough, man. Jalen Hurts has been going through camp right now without his number one and what you would expect to be would have expected to be his number two receiver. And obviously it's not as bad for as far as with Devontae Smith because Jalen Hurts already has that chemistry with Devontae Smith. We already know what Devontae Smith can do. We already seen what he can do. Kyle Lemon is the one that is right now is suffering the most from all this time off. They both dealing with hamstrings. Neither one of them have been around, and a couple of guys are stepping up. Darius Cooper, Elijah Moore stepping up into the equation. Dontavian Wicks, guys having pretty good camps right now. But the point is, those aren't going to be your main guys on Sunday come September, man. He needs to be able to be getting this new offense down with Devontae, with Mekhi Lemon. And then our second round pick, Eli Stowers. It's just been everything about this been bad coming from camp, man, with this kid falling all the way down in depth chart. Right now, he's down at 3 in the tight end room now on their depth chart, on their unofficial that they released today. And it's just been not good things coming out of there with him, like very unimpressive. Not what you expect out of a guy you draft in the second round, spend such a high draft pick on, and it's just not hearing a lot of good things. Their training camp almost reminds me a little bit of how what like the Giants training camp with the defense just kind of almost overwhelming the offense at times, a lot of the times right now in their training camp. And then also in the running back room, Tank Bigsby right now is out there looking like he's trying to be that second guy behind Saquon Barkley, as opposed to Will Shipley, who still right now is clinging on to that second spot according to their their depth chart they released today, their unofficial depth chart, the ones that is for whatever reason these depth charts are getting so much buzz. They're so unofficial that I don't even know why we're spending much time really talking about them. This depth chart go leading into the first preseason game. I mean, it really means nothing, absolutely nothing. But Tank Bigsby right now, he's been doing his thing, man, down over there at Eagles camp. Really, really, I mean, obviously nobody's leapfrogging Saquon Barkley, but he's definitely trying to hang on to that, take that second running back spot away from Will Shipley. But and then also just dealing with other like Jonathan Greenard still remains. He's still dealing with this pectoral injury that's going to have him out for multiple weeks. They're hoping that he's ready to go for the start of for the regular season, but looking like he's definitely not going to be around for the remainder of training camp and through the preseason. So I don't know. Everybody still, keep boosting this team up, but I just think this team has a lot of issues, man, that they're going to come down to earth a little bit this year. I think people are propping them up a little too much, man, right now, honestly. That's just my honest opinion. Not being a hater. That's just the way I really honestly feel when I look and see some of the things they're dealing with. Like I said, the fact that right now they don't even have their top 2 receivers getting any work done right now in camp while installing a new offense, to me those kind of things can just be problematic, man. But this is a resilient team, and they still have what looks like a really rock solid defense, man. So we will see. What's going on in the chat? Tyrone Hall, man, I appreciate you popping in, man. But you got anything with this Eagles defense?
Well, I think the Eagles defense is going to be their saving grace. I know that Grenard is injured, but I still think they have enough schematically that they're going to be able to figure some things out. Jalen Carter, this is why you paid him, right? You got to step up and make plays. Jordan Davis is why they have you. They still have Zach Bond, a few other guys. So for me, their defense is not what I would be concerned about. What you were mentioning about the offense is a little bit more concerning, and you just got to hope that they can play lights out defense. Last year, they were a little shaky in some games where, they were dominant sometimes, and then they weren't dominant in others. So they need to come out the gate flying. They have an opponent in the Commanders week 1, and if their defense does have a hole in it, or they don't get some of the guys you mentioned back, and they can't get to Jaden Daniels, it's going to be a long season for them. I do agree with you. I'm not as high on the Eagles as many other people are. I respect them because they're the champions, but something tells me they're not. I don't know. The aura is not there the same way. I don't know if that makes any sense, but for me, I'm not counting them out because I think they can still win 9 games, right? And I still think they'll be a pesky team, but I just don't think they have the same juice. Even though they said that someone showed a graphic on Twitter where 2021 they missed the playoffs, then 2022 they won the Super Bowl, 2023 they missed the playoffs, then they went to Super Bowl 2024, and then 2025 they were like one and done in the playoffs or whatever. So what does 2026 hold? I don't know. Is what's going on, guys? I don't know what that means, but at the same time, that is what. That's what I'm concerned about is whether or not their defense can hold up if their offense struggles.
It'll be something to see. Joe, man, Mac, he's gonna say I'm always a Giants fan. I am Mac, the Giants fan, bro. I got that name for a reason. And in fantasy football, yes, I'm an avid fantasy football player, and obviously you cannot have a fantasy football team comprised of all New York Giants. Okay,
doesn't work.
With that being said, when my players on my team are playing against the New York Giants, I do not openly cheer for them. I eat it, and I still hope they have a bad game, and it is what it is, no matter who it is. Whenever my guys are playing against the New York Giants, it just is what it is. I just call it a wash. I'll take the L that day if I have to, if it means the New York Giants getting the job done on any given Sunday. That's where my loyalties always are first and foremost. Just had to get that out, just so you understand. That's how I roll.
I mean, it's funny because we're NFL fans first. I mean, I didn't fall in love with the Giants first. I fell in love with the game of football because the Giants came second after a few, divine intervention things kind of put them in my way. I came in the 94 playoffs with the Browns and Steelers and the San Francisco 49ers against the Chargers in the Super Bowl, and I kind of got involved in that run. And then the next year, things happened where the Giants, I wanted to pick them because I was in the New York tri-state area. They were beating the Eagles, obviously. But then something happened when I was in second grade, which made me realize them, and then I started watching them fully in 1995. So, again, when you play fantasy, it's good to admire. Obviously, our hatred on Sundays will be we're not going to be rooting for McLaurin when he's playing us. But as a fan of the game, and I try to admire it because of the history, and sometimes we get too caught up in the emotion of the rivalries. We don't see the greatness in front of us. I'm going to let some of these guys evolve, right? The Jaden Daniels of the world. See how Stephon Diggs goes there. Keep an eye on Barkley's career. Do I hate that he goes to Philadelphia? But was that his fault, or was it the stupidity of the Giants front office not being able to get a deal done, right? He just went to the next best team. It's not his fault. It's not like he got traded there. The Giants played hardball, and they lost. And is it bad to hope that he, I don't want to blow out a knee or anything like that, but admire his career. Same thing with Xavier McKinney. I'm keeping an eye on him too, and great players along the league. I love the league just as much as I love my team. I put my team first on Sundays. That's the investment I make. That's the time I put in. That's the most emotional I am most of the days on Sunday. But I do enjoy the games. I put them on from 9 a.m. to midnight on some days when they're on there. So, and I don't even play fantasy. It's just for the love of the game.
And just another injury note for the Eagles. They did avoid a big time scare yesterday. Kenyon Mitchell apparently will be all right. According to Nick Sirianni, nothing at all to be alarmed about. He couldn't finish practice yesterday after something happened in one of the drills. And but Nick Sirianni has said that is nothing serious and he should be perfectly fine. All they did was a walk through the day, so obviously he didn't really do any work today, but should be right on the field, like back out there tomorrow at practice. So that would have been devastating if something happened to Kenyon Mitchell, if something more serious was happened to him. So they did dodge a bullet there. But this Saturday evening's Philadelphia Eagles traveling down the highway, take on the Baltimore Ravens, man. I would think that you would need to see their starting offense a little bit, man. And it's just because you're installing something new, you got to get these guys some actual live game reps in this new system, man. And I would think I don't know what your expectations are. What do you think? You think they'll get the starters out there for a little bit on Saturday?
You would hope so, but I don't necessarily think so. I would want to if I was Nick Sirianni because you have a new guy. You want to see how the play calls go. But knowing the Ravens and what they do and their reputation, it's okay if you hold them out. But I see where you're coming from. I'm kind of 50-50. Like I wouldn't play Barkley.
No. I would set Barkley out for real. I would. That's a good point.
I would play Hurts. I probably wouldn't play Devontae Smith. I use my starting O-line. I'd definitely try to get Bigsby going, right? Try to see if I can get, Wicks going a little bit, while they're out there, build some chemistry. You don't get only a series or two, but the crucial guys. Do I think you should put in Hurts longer than a series? No, but if you're going to start the offense, the only two guys I'd really take out are, Barkley and Smith. I know that you're saying, well, why not the offensive line? Well, the offensive line, do you want Jalen Hurts to get hurt because you put in a number 2 tackle? No. So you put in the starting O-line with your quarterback so he can get some time in a vanilla defense, let him build some confidence with these new weapons that he has and some of these young guys, and let them see if they can go down and punch it in and then take them off the field. But I think it would behoove the Eagles to play their starters. I don't know if they will. They haven't said they will or not, but to me, it makes sense with the new offense.
I mean, I agree with sitting Barkley. I mean, Devontae Smith's definitely not playing. Obviously, yeah, he's not even practicing at this point, so he's definitely won't be playing anyway. But Barkley, yeah, I would definitely probably say because I mean, you don't really need to see much from Barkley in preseason. No matter what, what he is, regardless. You know what I mean? That's just a point. But with this new offensive system, I just think it would be, especially in the receiver situation alone. I mean, you have so many new receivers you added to that room. I think you got to see at least 1 or 2 possessions maybe with Jalen Hurts out there. At least I would say probably cap it at 2. It's the first preseason game. Yeah, I would definitely cap it off at 2, maybe at best. But just got to see him get a little bit of work out there against another team and see how this is working. I mean, we're hearing so much good stuff about, like I said, Darius Cooper and Elijah Moore, what they've been able to do and getting the extra reps because with the injuries to Lemon and Smith and the Dontavian Wicks as well. I mean, let him and he's got Hollywood Brown out there. I mean, he's got a lot of new pieces out there and a new offense. And you hear about their struggles in the offense that they've been having. You got to get some live reps out there, man. I know it's the first preseason game, and I hear you, Chris, in the chat. I see you, Chris, in the chat. I hear you. But you got to be realistic about it. I'm not saying go out there and play them for a whole half or some crazy shit like that. I'm saying you got to give him at least a couple possessions, man. At least him. Let him get a couple possessions, especially with all these new receivers, all these. It's just too much newness to not. You only got 3 preseason games, and you can almost bank on the last one that you're not playing them at all, in the last one at all, period. So you got to get a little bit of work in, man. You can't just rely on that one preseason game in between these two. Yeah, I mean, the joint practices, I hear you, but that's not the same. That's still also not quite the same, man. That's still not quite the same thing. So, I mean, I have no idea what they're going to do, but I just feel like I said, a couple, like you said, we talking about Barkley, somebody like that, understand you don't need to necessarily see him out there, but I think you got to give at least Hurts maybe 1 or 2 possessions on Saturday evening, at least a couple. I mean, you can obviously, like Adam said, with your starting no line out there, you're going to have your starting. You got to. That's just how I feel about it. You feel differently, and I can respect it, but I just think with the fact that you almost know they're not going to play in the third, whoever they're playing in the third preseason game, they're not going to play their starters at all probably in that game. I feel like you can't just rely just on one preseason game, especially with this new offense that they're putting in. But we'll see. Saturday will answer all these questions. And I'm interested to see that running back battle too, like I said, with Tank Bigsby and Will Shipley. There seems to be something interesting heating up in Eagles camp something that a good storyline that's been created, man. So I'm kind of curious to see which one of those two guys make the most of the opportunity that they're going to get on Saturday, which will probably be a lot of reps, man. Because like I said, I don't expect to see Barkley playing at all Saturday. So those two guys should be getting a lot of reps and see which one of them rise to the occasion, man. Tyrone Hill said, "Let Dart get a first down, and that's that." Oh, we'll see. He definitely needs some work as well. I feel the same way about them playing on Saturdays as well, but we'll get to them in a few. If you're starting a new offense, you got to do a couple of drives. That's what I'm saying, a couple of drives at least. That's it. Not talking about play a whole quarter, play the whole half. Just get a couple of drives in. That's it. Only guy we have who needs to be out is Andrew Thomas. Now, if Jackson Dart's on the field, Andrew Thomas is going to be on the field, sir. I'm sorry. That's it. Yep. If Dart's out there,
yep,
then Andrew Thomas is out there. Point blank and period. But any final thoughts before we move to them boys?
Nope. We can go to the Cowboys.
Well, let's get to them then, man. Let's get to the Cowboys, man. Let's talk about it. Adam, what you got? What you been hearing coming out of Dallas Cowboy camp as they did some joint practices this week as well?
What I've been hearing is that the kid that we passed on at number 10, Caleb Downs, is having a phenomenal training camp. That's what I'm hearing. Now, again, they could be blowing sunshine up your ass, but they say he's been a terror out there, really solidifying that defense. They said the defense has really come a long way since last year. Whether or not that will translate, again, is different, but they do have a new defensive coordinator who they like, who's being a little bit more aggressive, who's allowing them to be them. I saw their depth chart, and it's interesting to watch their second cornerback, who that's going to be, right? And their outside linebacker room. While their defensive front is great with Kenny Clark, and they just inked Quinyon Mitchell to a $105 million deal. It's interesting to see what the outside linebackers. They brought in Rashad Gary, but they have the Lawrence kid that they got, and then the Azariki from last year, who they are very high on, and Sam Williams as some of their linebackers. I want to see how they mesh. But their offense is what their offense does. What their offense does, move the ball up and down the field. CeeDee Lamb is doing CeeDee Lamb things, and George Pickens is George Pickens. Their offensive line is getting better and gelling. Dak Prescott hasn't missed a beat. I don't want to talk too highly of them because then the national media will start doing what they always do and start picking them to win the Super Bowl and all this stuff. But if I'm a Cowboy fan, if I'm a Cowboy fan, I'm a little excited about what I'm hearing coming out of camp. So far, knock on wood, they remain healthy. Because usually the Cowboys, they haven't lost anybody huge at the moment. Again, that could change, and you don't want that to hear those types of things. But usually this time last year, their O-line was banged up. A lot of guys were in and out of the lineup coming into the year, and this year they're a totally different defense, even though they don't a totally different team and a little healthier. And we'll see if it'll translate. Offensively, I'm a little nervous about them because they did score a lot of points last year, and I think they're only going to get better as they go and get more involved in this offense, right? And I was looking at a stat last week, and someone was talking about Dak Prescott. I'm like, why do they hate him? And they came up on the TV yesterday, and he threw for 4,500 yards and 30 touchdowns. I'm like, man, all this guy does is put up numbers that are insane, yet he gets hated on every year because certain things don't go his way or the team doesn't go his way. So we'll see how they pan out. They are looking primed. I would not be surprised if all said and done, we were talking about the Cowboys winning the division. I do think the Giants and other teams have a chance, but I could see the Cowboys winning it for some reason this year just because I think the Eagles are banged up. And the Cowboys offense, if they stay healthy, was one of the best last year, and I think they'll be pretty good this year. Again, their offensive line needs to remain healthy because they can – and if they're smart – they will take the ball a little bit more out of Dak's hands and give it to Javonte Williams and use Jaden Blue and see if they can get some more production out of that backfield. Their receivers with Flanoy, I think they're going to be fine. The tight end, Ferguson and Schumacher, they're okay. And that offensive line, we obviously know that they have the best interior offensive line, and then Guyton just solidified himself. So they only have really one position that might be weak. And we'll see what happens. Again, lots going to happen between now and the start of the year. But if they can remain healthy, big if, and their defense, what is the narrative that we've been talking about with all these NFC East teams, with the Commanders, with the Cowboys, and obviously we're going to say with the Giants, if their defense can be somewhat competent, somewhat getting some people off the field in a few games, they might be actually in the plus win column, right? So that's what they're looking for, where they don't need to be world beaters. They just need to be good enough. Like I said, with the Commanders, middle of the road, give yourself a chance at the end with this potent offense. So that's kind of what I'm hearing. But again, Caleb Downs is doing a lot of things. I know Giant fans and some people are saying, should we be worried? Look, you picked who you picked. You got Arvell Reese. You didn't get Caleb Downs. You chose an offensive lineman, right? You chose CC. I'm not mad about that. If Caleb Downs goes on to have a Hall of Fame career, and as long as Arvell Reese is good, it doesn't matter to me, right? And as long as CC is good, it doesn't matter to me, right? You can't revisit history and be mad because you didn't make a pick. I mean, yes, you can be mad that you didn't make the pick and he's on the other team, like with Michael Parsons, but once he's on that team, it's up to that player to make the legacy, right? And I happen to like Arvell Reese just as much as I like Caleb Downs, if not more. And I think Reese is going to have his own impact, and we'll get to him in a little bit. But I'm just saying, I don't want to hear people harp on because what they're going to do is they're going to try to compare Downs to CC, right? And if Malnoa doesn't do what he does, and they go, oh, well, we could have Caleb Downs. Look what he's doing. He's in the Pro Bowl. He's doing all this. I don't want to hear all that. Just be grateful that we got one of the best offensive linemen in the draft. It was at the expense of a safety, and we'll get to that in a little bit with the Giants. But just enjoy what you got with Malnoa, and don't worry that if Downs goes on to be great, then he's great. Now, be mad that he's on the Cowboys, right? Because you'll have to see him twice a year. But don't be mad because we didn't draft him. And what if CC goes on to be a great lineman? Are you going to care then? So I don't want to hear all this. I'm hearing too much like, oh, well, CC, and then we're going to pass in here. He's doing it. The offensive line's important. Okay? If we don't hear anything about CC for years, that's good. Andrew Thomas doesn't say a peep. I don't hear about that guy a peep. But yeah, he's the best player on the team. Do you think I would trade Andrew Thomas for Downs or a guy like that? Obviously. So just let them play out. Let them have their career. And again, as a fan of teams, I'm going to keep an eye on it. Do I want to root for him? Obviously, I don't want to root for him. It hurts with every fiber of my being to even look at him. But again, I wasn't huge on Downs, so those who were are going to, be mad at what he does well. But like I said, I'm rambling on. I'll let Mac have the mic now.
Look, I'm not going to spend any time talking about the Cowboys offense, really, because there's nothing to talk about. We know that offense is legitimate. We know it's sick. They brought back pretty much all their starters, and it's going to be the same explosive offense that it was a year ago. Nothing, no new expectations there. No, nothing new. I mean, it's just it's like Adam said, it's about the Cowboys defense. And let's talk about it, man. They had joint. It was kind of weird. They did joint practices with the Rams this week, but they're playing against Seattle on Saturday night. It's kind of usually when you do joint practices, that's usually the team you're going against for the preseason for that week. But anyway, so they had the joint practices with the Rams, and defensively, they made some headlines. They really did. I mean, it's look interesting. They had guys stepping up. Linebacker Justin Barron stepped up 3 interceptions against the Rams, and one of them was against Matthew Stafford. So they've got some guys stepping up, man, on that defense. And as far as the cold Caleb Downs thing, CC, look, I was upset a little bit draft night because I was one of those guys very high on Caleb Downs. But CC, when you get one of the best O-linemen in the draft available in draft, and we got maybe the best defensive player in the draft at the number 5 pick, that's a successful draft. Point blank and period. That's a successful first round, period. I mean, CC has been impressing in New York Giant camp as well. So, look, Caleb Downs is impressing in Dallas. CC's impressing, and maybe they'll both go on to be future Hall of Famers. Who knows, man? Only time's going to tell, man. But I'm not upset one bit. And I'm happy where the Giants are, man. But as far as the Cowboys with this defense, man, they really they stepped up this week against the Rams, and that was a big test, even though it's joint practices, but it's against a team that's expected to go to the Super Bowl and win it. A team that's coming into this year going to be number one at the top of the power rankings to start this season off at least. And to go out there and have an impressive week of practices against a team like that, I get it. No Myles Garrett was out. Myles Garrett wasn't getting any work as he's still dealing with something, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, the Cowboys offense had a lot of success against the Rams defense, and the Cowboys defense really stepped it up. And Kenan Williams just got the new contract, and he's also making noise out there for the Dallas Cowboys in camp, man. Now, got that. He signed his deal, and now he's unlocked, man, and he's out there impressing. So this Cowboy defense, like you said, Adam, if they can just be middle of the pack, which they may possibly be able to work themselves to that, man. What they can do on offense, this team is going to be a dangerous football team. So we will see, man. We will see. But this Cowboys team, but they are heading out to Seattle, to the great Northwest, take on them Seattle Seahawks. So, Adam, what you think about the Seahawks? What do you think you can maybe expect to see from the Dallas Cowboys this week going out to Seattle?
You want to see how they play, because if you've been watching Hard Knocks, the Seattle Seahawks are primed for another big year. And this is a team that, whether you like preseason or not, you want to test your backups against. See how good some of your second teamers are against a team that won the Super Bowl last year. I mean, I'm going to take the Harbaugh approach on some of these preseason games, because Harbaugh in Baltimore and then probably with the Giants takes the preseason serious on working on things. So work on some of the stuff that you need. Let Caleb Downs get some burn. If he is impressive in this game, let's see it. Let's see if he can translate some of that onto the field. That's what you want to see in Seattle. Some of the guys who are having their A-plus camps, can they bring it on here? I know that they had the joint practice with the Rams, and you got a good feel there, but some of these young guys who you might need to rely on during the year, can they play against this good Seattle team who's got some solid depth, right? You're going to have a quarterback out there in Jalen Milroe who's probably going to play. So you're going to have a chance to get a guy who is mobile and get some film and get familiar with a guy who's running around. It really does help teams like that. You get Illinois, who'll probably have to play a little bit. Turpin might have to play a little bit, right? Those guys, getting them going. If they decide to bring Dak Prescott in, I think if I'm the Cowboys, I do that. Again, building confidence against the Super Bowl contender. You may not think, even though it's a preseason game, that's not how the mentality is of how you want to approach a game. And I guarantee you that's not how they're going to approach the game. They're going to want to approach it while getting things done and make sure they're sharp. Why not against this team who obviously, Mike McDonald was going to bring some heat and some packages and some pressure looks, even with his backups, who again watch that Hard Knocks. You're going to see that team's pretty stacked on in terms of depth. So I think it'll be a good test for the Cowboys to get some of their good guys in. We'll see if Milton can actually do something. I know they have a couple other guys on their roster that they're looking at the quarterback position, but Joe Milton has kind of slipped down to like the third string. So we'll see if he gets his job back or can juice. We can get to see Jaden Blue. Maybe he'll get to play some games and get to see who that is. But I mean, Eric Flowers is a reach, and he should have played guard from the start. That was a problem with the Giants. They forced him to play tackle when they should have moved him to guard, and he probably has a better career. But again, and he was a raw talent. He was not good. If you looked at Eric Flowers, and I don't mean to go off on this tangent, but it was brought up. If you look at Eric Flowers, he had no game. He was all brute strength and no footwork. That was his problem. But get back to the Cowboys real quick. Like you said, on defense, you want to see if Caleb Downs translates over. You want to see if guys who are on the bubble in terms of like the running back position, if they can, Jaden Blue gives you some juice if he's bounced back, if he's learned some things from last year. And, guys like Flanoy, if he can make some plays and really step up and solidify that third receiver spot. And then, it'll be a good test.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to expect. The Cowboys got some good work against the Rams, like I said, in joint practices this week. go out to Seattle. I mean, he might give Dak a series, maybe. Who knows? But I don't expect to see too much. Yeah, I don't expect to see too much. There's going to be a lot of their backups, a lot of the guys that are fighting for the position, like you said, a lot of Jaden Blue and guys like that. You know, MVS, Marvell's Valdez Scantlin, who they brought in. You know, guys like that, the guys that are like, you know, trying to juggle for positioning on the depth chart. I think you want to see a lot of those guys get most of the work. But I'm just kind of chomping at the bit here because you guys keep loading up, spamming the chat with these comments, man. I will go back to a couple of them real quick, man. Says Joe up here, he was like, can't really go wrong, Span drafting an offensive lineman. And he says, yeah, we thought that about Evan Neal. And I wanted to touch on that when I saw that comment pop up because I ain't gonna lie. When Evan Neal came out, he was the guy that I wanted. I just expected so much more from this kid. I just didn't think he was gonna come in and bust out and just be the bust that he ended up being. And to me it's still disappointing. Just the way he came in and just has sucked his entire career. And now even moving him into guard, which I think we did way too late. He's still not even able to catch on. Like I just see no way, no scenario in which Evan Neal makes this roster for the New York Giants coming up this season, man. Got somebody new in the chat. Vinny, man, nice to see you, brother. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you coming through. If you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe for me, man. I really appreciate it. So keep trying to grow here, man. He says, Chris here, he says, I don't know. The Giants don't have the best draft history when drafting offensive linemen. And, yeah, it's been a little dicey as of late. Andrew Thomas, obviously, is the exception to that rule. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm not hearing the things that I'm hearing about CC aren't like the things I'm hearing because CC doesn't have the footwork issue like Evan Neal had. CC I'm just hearing great. Everything I'm hearing is great. The way he's moving people out, the way he's able to, once he engages, he's moving whatever he wants out the way. He's getting it out the way, and I can appreciate that. The things I'm hearing about him. So look, I know the history speaks for itself, but I think CC is gonna be an exception to that rule, man. I just really feel good about him, man. Eric Flowers, like everything Adam said already about Eric Flowers. That was a reach from the door. I never liked Eric Flowers. I was pissed when we made that pick, such a high draft pick on a guy that, like Adam said, was such a raw talent and a guy that clearly proved he wasn't ready. So,
I mean, when you watch that guy's tape, he's not doing anything but just pushing all the ACC guys around from like Duke and everything. He doesn't really have his problem is the same problem that Evan Neal had. Like they look like Tarzan, but they play like Jane, right? And they probably should be guards when they're even though we make them tackles, but you make them tackles in college because you can put as many fat guys on a line to take that advantage. But when you get to the NFL and you can't move laterally, it's hard to be a tackle against some of these athletic guys. And Eric Flowers, you used to see it all the time. His punch was bad, his bend was bad, his feet were never even over his shoulder, under his shoulder, so he always was off balance. Then we went to guard where it's a little different in terms of stance. You don't have to necessarily have the same footwork as a guard as you do a tackle. He didn't, I wouldn't say thrive, but he had a better bounce back to his career. CC is far from that. One, his passion is a lot better. He's an overall better prospect because he was drafted higher. And he also, if you would put their numbers together, I guarantee you people would take CC over Eric Flowers in that draft 10 times out of 10. But the problem with, like, CC doesn't have the same problems that Eric Flowers has. And again, I think he's going to translate to guard well. And if one of our guys like Illumina or Thomas go down, he has that tackle versatility where you can kick him to the outside, which a lot of these guys in the Giants have that. So I think when you're talking about CC and what he brings to the table, I think he's going to be a mauler. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowl guard. I think just because he played tackle, there wasn't when he was coming out, they weren't worried about his footwork. They were just like, where is he going to play? Is he going to play tackle or is he going to play guard? Because they're like, well, if we're playing guard, I don't necessarily need to take him in the top 10. But if he's playing tackle, I can take him in the top 10. Well, the guy has proven that he is the best guard tackle in the league. Well, let's just let it play out. I think he'll have an easier transition as a guard than tackle.
All right, what's going on, Bookends, man? He says Evan Neal was the cause of his screen name. Yeah, I know that was a big letdown. I know he did not give us a pair of bookend tackles. That's for damn sure. But maybe we got him now though a little bit, and Thomas and Luminor hopefully. Chris says first time watching this channel, gonna follow y'all. Go Birds. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that, man. Definitely appreciate it, man. We talk about the NFC every Saturday, every Wednesday, right here, man. Talking about the whole division, and it only gets better every week. Evan Neal was a bust and called Mac a burger flipper. He just stabbed him and twisted the knife. Yeah, I still feel some type of way about that. Yeah, I definitely do. I was personally insulted that day by Evan Neal, punk ass. He said I was so sure Neal would transition. Says that year there was like 2 draft analysts out of hundreds who thought Neal was going to bust. Yeah, I mean he was legit, like he was a legit prospect, and I thought that it was going to totally transition into the league, man. I really did. I was shocked to see how bad he ended up really being, man. And I just can't wait for him to just be all the way gone from this football team, which I think is going to happen by the end of training camp, by the end of the preseason. Because like I said, I do not see a path of him making. He's still on getting just 13 reps in practice right now. He's not even pretty much an option out there. He's barely getting reps now. Says Flowers had just turned 20, I think, so they thought they could work with his physical abilities. It's a possibility. He was young when he got drafted, but nah, he was one of those guys you got to have it. That's another, like I said, what Adam said, comparing him with CC. CC has it. He has that mentality, that dog mentality. This is what he lives and breathes for, man. You know what I mean? This is a difference in the way those guys go about their day and go about their work, man. So he says Flowers didn't put the work in. Evan Neal does. It just doesn't translate. Yeah, Evan Neal seems like he like that workout video that came out before the training camp and all that, before the summer practices and all that, OTAs and all that. Look good jumping up on boxes and all that good stuff. But we need to see you play football or move people out the way, which honestly, his run blocking hasn't really been a complete fair. He's been decent when it comes to, in that regard. He was just he's just never been able to get it done in the pass blocking. He was getting Daniel Jones absolutely annihilated pretty much every damn Sunday. So yeah, it says if CC gets to play tackle when he is above average, leave him there for 10 years and put a Luminor. Oh, I mean, look, it might come down to that anyway once Luminor's time is up. But right now we signed a Luminor, and I think it's a solid right side of the offensive line with CC and Jermaine Luminor, man. I think that he likes what they're building good chemistry together, and Luminor speaks very highly of him. So, yeah, that's your opinion, my man. But thanks for stopping in. The box jump hype. He has no balance. He looks like Bambi on ice out. He looks like Bambi on ice out there. Terrible.
He's on the ice capades, huh?
Yeah. All right, let's get to the New York. Let's get into the good stuff, though. New York Giants. Adam, I mean, do you want to talk about some of the biggest news of the day was, at least?
Go ahead. Talk about the biggest news of the day.
I would say obviously bringing in former Lions cornerback Terrion Arnold, man, bringing him in for a visit. Everybody, nobody has signed him yet. Clearly, he has been dealing with a lot of legal issues this past offseason. This is why he is a former Detroit Lions. He's a former first-round draft pick. They parted ways with him after his brush with the law, should say, for right now. I mean, and he's still, I guess he's still dealing with it. I'm not even sure 100% what's going on all the way with it. Kind of, you would think a little bit unusual. The Giants don't usually even look in the direction of players like that with those kind of legal issues. But it's a new sheriff in town, man, and it's about football. and an area this team needs an upgrade in is definitely that back end and those cornerback positions. So, Adam, what's your thoughts on Terrion Arnold coming in for a visit?
It's interesting because of the injuries that they've had at the cornerback position. I didn't think this would be in the Giants' radar because they don't. You can tell that there's a new sheriff in town because they don't care necessarily about the character. They care about an upgrade, and it tells me that our cornerback situation is something that we need to really look at in a bigger scope because they fucking are bringing in a guy who hasn't played, has 8 felony charges against him, may not play in the NFL, and you're still bringing him in for a visit. What does that tell me about my cornerback situation? I'm just saying, I'm like, we're talking about Deontay Banks looking good and all this, but yet we're still bringing this guy. I understand due diligence, but you're not bringing in the guy to just, wine and dine him and say, see you later. You're bringing in the guy to see if he could possibly join your roster. Now, somebody else may sign him, but you're bringing him in for a workout. That means you're interested. It's like when you get an interview with somebody, right? They read your resume. They don't want to hire you, but they still want to interview you. Don't waste my time. If I'm Terrion Arnold, if you're not really interested in signing me, don't waste my time. Like Max said, I got some accolades. I got a former first-round pick. I mean, Seattle, he was just in Seattle. They're loving him over there. They talked with Milroe about him. Again, go watch the Hard Knocks. Milroe already put in a good word. So you're coming in here, and you got to ask yourself, if you're a Giant fan, yay, Terrion Arnold, great, but what does that mean about the other guys on the roster? Especially since a lot of the guys, Greg Newsome was having a good camp, is a little banged up. Paul Adebo hasn't done shit. He got paid mad money. Yeah, he had an interception, but from all intents and purposes, he's all but dead as a doornail. Deontay Banks, while some people believe he's doing well, he still got burnt by Darius Slayton on some plays. So I'm like, is he really that good, or just everybody's that bad that he's emerging? I'll wait till I see him against CeeDee Lamb before I make my final judgment call against him. But he's having a solid camp. I wouldn't put it that way, but some people are, and we'll see what happens. But the fact that they're bringing in Terrion Arnold,
a lot of people are. I think a lot of people are. Though. I think you're being a little tough on him, Adam. I think you're giving him that Evan Neal treatment. I think he's working a little harder right now. I think
look. I may prove it to me till it is. In practice, it's more of a controlled environment. But when I hear that you're still getting burnt by Darius Slayton, I'm not all that impressed because Darius Slayton ain't that good, and yet we have CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens coming to town week 1, right? So I'm glad that he's found a renewed sense of football self, but there are 2 things he doesn't do well, and that's one is tackle, and the other thing is confidence. We'll see come that game. If he shuts down his side of the field, I'll be good. But with that being said,
he did say confidence. He said the word confidence, and that's what a lot of things I've been hearing about him is people were saying he's getting his confidence back. That's like one of the main things people have been saying. Like him and Newsome apparently have been the best 2 corners thus far through
which
camp.
isn't saying much.
Well, it's not. It's not. I mean, but it's just the point that, like, they're saying this kid is playing with a whole different type of. I don't know that. Like I said, like you said, I agree. We got to see it in the games, and I'm with you. I'm not giving him anything.
Well, it's good that he's doing well. It's good that he's taking it serious, right? That you're seeing that he's improved from last year as a corner. But what I have to ask myself is a few questions. One, you're bringing in Terrion Arnold, but you paid Adebo last year. Isn't Adebo supposed to be your shutdown corner? Isn't it supposed to be Greg Newsome, Adebo, and Phillips? And then you bring in Colton Hood, but now you're going to bring in Terrion Armstrong. That's his name, right? Terrion Armstrong? Terrion Arnold, right? My issue with it isn't that you're bringing in Terrion Arnold because you should bring in top-tier talent. My issue is that everybody around him is ass, right? And it doesn't give me confidence going into the year where I have to rely on Deontay Banks and a guy in Greg Newsome, who I like Greg Newsome, but is already banged up, in my cornerback room, that you're bringing in Terrion Arnold. So I'm not saying don't do it for the Giants. I'm just saying if you're a Giant fan, you may want to put a red flag up saying, well, I do like this guy coming in here. What does it say about the rest of the cornerback room, right? Because there's a lot of other teams in this mix who are trying to bring him in. Seattle, who has a great team, wants to bring him in. So that already shows me that he's good. And there's a lot of good talent on Seattle. They're just trying to be better. Remember, they lost Reek Woolen last year. They may need another guy to kind of help them out. Imagine if they got Arnold and Quinyon Mitchell. But if I'm Quinyon Mitchell out there, not Quinyon Mitchell, Witherspoon. Excuse me. If I'm Devon Witherspoon, I wouldn't want Terrion Arnold because now if you pay him money, you definitely got to pay me, and I'm waiting for my new contract. So I know we're talking all NFL here, but for the Giants, for me, I'm cool with the move. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't know if he's even going to play, so I don't really understand it because until his court cases go through and he's acquitted on whatever he's done or they're settled, it doesn't really matter to me. However, it does bring up some concern for me, at least, that they are bringing a guy like this. It shows me that they're a little actions speak louder than words. So yeah, sure, you're blowing Deontay Banks right now and some of those guys, but yet you're flirting with Terry Arnold. Kind of doesn't make sense.
I think that almost says more about the leadership here, though. Now up above, like where before you kind of think the last regime wouldn't even bat an eye to look at in the direction of Terry Arnold. I think it's just about due diligence. You know what I mean? I don't honestly foresee him signing here, and it's another. I got to ask you another reason why I think it would be kind of something that maybe you don't want to really waste your time too much. Think about wasting your time with too much. They take it really entertaining. Make it take seriously because, okay, say we sign him, then there's also the possibility that he still gets a league suspension for like maybe 4 games or whatever, 6 games, whatever. You know what I mean? Just based off of the personal conduct. Even if he is acquitted, he was still involved in something that the league will probably want to hand down some degree of a punishment to him for, and that's another thing you have to also consider. You bring him in, then he's going to end up being suspended anyway for X amount of games probably. So it's a lot to think about before you make that kind of commitment. But I think it's just more all about doing due diligence because clearly there is an issue back there. I think we all, as Giant fans, kind of understand that there's an issue with the cornerback position. And look, you just got he's a guy that's out there, a guy that would have never been expected to be out there. That is, and look, you gotta take a look. You know what I mean? You gotta at least take a look. I think, and that's what I think good coaches do, and good run organizations do. I mean, you're gonna take a look. I mean, Seattle, like you said, they had him out in Seattle.
Well,
we visit yesterday, so
I think the thing for me that I didn't see coming was him coming here, right? Because yes, he also went out to Texans, and the Texans want him, right? A lot of teams are looking at him and probably getting the, skinny on what's going on with his court cases. But I didn't think, for me, the Giants. I understand a contender like Seattle, Houston, the Rams, those teams would want a guy like that. But the Giants already invested in their cornerback position last year, and this guy is not going to, get any. He's going to want good money. He's going to get at least probably in double digit deal. He's not going to get a Greg Newsom deal of $5 million or $3 million. He's going to get like 12, 13, 14, $15 million to play, right, on a prove it deal, especially if he's not suspended by the league or anything like that going forward, which is kind of interesting to me because nothing's happened on that front either. So I don't know if we don't really, what we need to find out is just sign already so we can find out what the league is going to do, because if he doesn't, he doesn't. But again, I think what is, like you said, is good. The management has changed because we would never look at a guy like this previously. I don't think Dayball brings him in. Definitely don't bring Judge Pat Shermer or any of those guys bring him in because, the ownership had more of a hand in what is going on. Harbaugh has dealt with people, on the Ravens who've had some troubles in their past as well. So I think he's a more trustworthy guy that he can get guys in the straight and narrow. So maybe that's why you want to bring a guy in like Terry Arnold saying, hey, look, I can handle it. I can take care of this. I've done this before. It's not 18 years in the league. I've dealt with, many different scenarios. Let's bring this guy in, as you say, which I do believe in due diligence as well, but he's a big name due diligence. It's not like you brought in like a Stephon Gilmore, right, where you have injuries and you're just running a patchwork. You're bringing in Terry Arnold to be your number one corner, which means your number one corners who, again, Debo, and you're hoping that Banks has turned the corner. I don't have confidence in either one of them. And then Newsom has already gotten injured. So it's a little concerning for me. That's all I'm saying.
And Joe here says desperation is a stinky cologne.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to think that they've had evaluations of these corners going forward, right? And just like the Giants were in on the running game with the running backs, They were in on the receiver game with the receivers. They know that their DBs are lacking. Same thing with the safeties that they've kind of messed around with. They know their backfield is lacking the talent that they so desperately need. So to bring in a guy, I just think with the history of what he has in his checkered past right now is why it's different for the Giants. If this guy was just injured in the ACL and he was coming back, no one would care. They'd be like, oh, great move, let's bring him in. But because of what's happening legally with him, it's something the Giants I never thought would see them do. So it's kind of interesting in that regard. But for me, it also brings up a red flag. Like, are we really – is Deontay Banks good? But, like what's really happening? That's all it is. I have to question things this late in the offseason to see what happens. If they, like the Seattle Seahawks, have no reason to bring him in other than that they're freaking good and they want to make their team even better with that guy. If you're the Giants, you have to look at it kind of similar, but you're not in the same boat as Seattle. But you have to look at your roster and say, is this guy better than anybody that we have? If the answer is yes, then that's why you want to bring him in. And clearly,
but okay, let's let me go with you on that one because I want to because it goes in step with this comment to me a little bit. Says he actually he says Adam he says he act like he's an all pro. I wouldn't necessarily say he's below average. He's a little more than below, but at the same time, he has been a disappointment. He has not lived up to his draft status in Detroit, which is what made it easy for them once he got into these league races for them to get rid of him in the first place. So I think he's a guy coming on this team that honestly he might be a slight upgrade from the guys we already had, but as far as what he's proven in the league thus far, I can't say he's a major upgrade from what we already have anyway. I feel like he's a guy that has a lot to prove as well on the field as well anyway. In general.
I'm just looking at the teams that want him, right? The teams that are looking at him, are outside of the Saints. There's some contenders in there. And for me, I see that he was a first-round pick. He had his ups and downs in Detroit as a young player. They cut him, let's be honest, because they're not tolerating any of this bullshit and nonsense anymore. And that's
but if he was say he was Kenyon Mitchell, would they cut him? They wouldn't. They would have dealt with that bullshit. That's what I mean. Like it's because he's been so high and low.
What you're saying is that because of his lack of, I guess, immediate success, it's easier to part ways with a guy. And maybe I am giving him a little too much credit on that regard, but I just think, to me, there's been too much buzz about this guy across the league with other teams. That is, if nobody really wanted him, there would be one team and he would have no suitors. Apparently he has suitors. So maybe I'm looking at it differently as like, because I see the amount of teams lining up to bring him in, I see more than that. And I don't think he was awful with the Lions. I don't think he was great, but I don't think like he was. They drafted him in the first round for a reason, right? Same thing about Deontay Banks. With Deontay Banks, if he had those felony charges and he got cut from the Giants, do you think he'd have 8 or 9 teams suited up for him? I don't. That's just how I feel. So I don't know, man. I'm just saying that with the Giants, if you're saying that he's as good as Deontay Banks or what we got, then there's no point even bringing that guy onto the tryout because I'm only bringing him in because I think he can add value and upgrade what we already have. If I'm already on par with him in terms of the guys I already have, I'll just stick with the guys I already have because I need to find out about Deontay Banks. I need to find out about Greg Newsome and Andre Phillips. And by the way, I also have a guy named Colton Hood who I'm also trying to get ingrained into the defense. So to me, unless you're believing that he is going to be an upgrade, there's no need to bring him in.
All right, look, I think we spent
too much
more than enough time
on that guy,
on Terry and Arnold, who is not a New York Giant. He just came in for a damn visit. But we spent way too much time on him. But here it is. It's a great debate nonetheless. Let's talk about Arvell Reese and what Arvell Reese could potentially bring to the table. Arvell Reese every day is just doing spectacular shit at practice. And it's just now I'm ready to go out there and get my number 52 jersey. Like I'm ready to get one because I think this guy could possibly he's laying down the foundation of a guy that may be looking like he's going to be the next great New York Giant linebacker. How you feel about Arvell Reese, man?
I am enamored with the kid. And the fact that he's coming in, the thing that I loved the best was one of the beat reporters goes, when he met Ricard in the hole, all you heard was thump. You just heard cracking of pads. Now, they said he didn't really win the battle of the rep, but he wasn't afraid to put his nose in there. He's flying around. He had an interception today. I told you people when he was drafted, he's not an outside line. He's not an edge player. He's a linebacker. Leave him at that. He's going to be a good linebacker. Don't try to make him something that he's not. You can blitz with a guy like him. That's exactly what he's meant to do. Blitz, careen around the edge, go up the A gap and clog the hole. I think he's going to bring a lot to this defense. The other guy I want to mention behind him, who's also in the same group, allows for versatility. What does that mean? He's going to be on the field. Somebody is going to be taken off the field because of Arvell Reese. I know they're talking about, Kayvon Thibodeau. Guess what? You have Abdul Carter. You're going to have Darius Alexander, who's having a great camp. This is a good problem to have, but it's a problem nonetheless. Excuse me. And if you're a guy like an Arvell Reese, he's going to allow guys like Thibodeau, Carter, Burns to get the one-on-one reps because you never know where he's going to line up. You never know where he's coming from, and he's not one-dimensional. He's got coverage ability, which you're seeing translate in practice. And you're not hearing stone hands. You're hearing interceptions. Those are things you want to hear about when you have a guy like Arvell Reese. It means that he's naturally meant to be in this position. And with the speed that he has and the range that he has, Mac, I am on your level. I already thought that he was going to be defensive rookie of the year, but who knows, man. I'm excited. I might call him defensive player of the year at this point, because that's how excited I am of him. I don't necessarily, if he doesn't win that, I definitely think he'll be in the running for defensive player of the year. I think it'll be him, Caleb Downs, and Sonny Styles. I think all three guys are going to be in that mix when it's all said and done and the dust settles. But I just think he is so – Peter Schrager called him RoboCop. I told you this guy was enormous. He is – when you watch him, he fills out the camera. When they're on him, they have to back up even more just to get his shoulders in the camera shot because that's how enormous he is. And this, mind you, he's only 20 years old. I don't want to fast forward the season because I don't want to miss it, but fast forward to next year when he gets a full year in the program. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
I mean, just ask Cam Scatterbull about Arvell Reese. Because he'll tell you. Ask Cam. He
got up slow. he got up slow. They were like, he had to go get the cobwebs knocked out. You know what I mean? Like, but think about this, Mac. When in recent history have the Giants had a thumper like this at linebacker? A guy that's going to bring the intensity and bring the energy. I'm not talking about like an Antonio Pierce where he's a cerebral assassin. I'm talking about a guy that was a difference maker at the linebacker position.
This guy, he's just focused and dedicated to football. I mean, they say he walks around the facility. They said he doesn't say much. He barely talks. Like you barely know the guy can even talk. And they said, but he's always where he needs to be. And he's always ready to go. And he's always just thirsty for knowledge, trying to get better, man. And that's a credit to some of the pieces around him as well. Some of the, like Tremaine Edmonds has been, a good mentor to him so far throughout camp. And just all the other leadership, Brian Burns. I mean, everybody can't be wrong. I'm sorry. Everybody can't be wrong. And they all feel the same exact way about one Mr. Arvell Reese. So,
somebody used to tell me a story and I need to ask you about a guy after this, but someone told me something once. He's like, if you ask somebody one question and you ask that another person the same question, they give you the same answer, just explained in different ways, then that must be the answer. Well, guess what? You got different ways the beat writers are telling you this guy is good, whether it's be from the coaching staff, whether it be from here, he's showing up. And like Max said, however many people are saying it, there's something must be going on with this guy, because it's not just like one guy like Art Stapleton saying, watch Arvell Reese. No, it's the entire, media outlet.
Everyone that sees him.
You have Peter Schrager in the national news saying, you've got guys on Good Morning Football saying, like, it is, this guy is going viral for some of the things that they're doing, especially on Inside Training Camp Live. Brian Baldinger was out there, or a few other guys were out there. They're talking about how big he is, what he looks like, and the things that he's doing. And it's just you got to I'm not trying to overhype him, but you can't help but be excited about him. But the guy I want to ask you about, who is intriguing to me, is Micah McFadden. All right, Micah McFadden apparently is having a phenomenal camp, one of the best of his career. It makes me wonder what you do with a guy like him, because if he is that good, how do I get him on the field, or how do I get him maybe to another team, or bring an asset to him, or do I get rid of Tremaine Edmonds next year, and I can sign Micah McFadden for cheaper and say, Edmonds, well, I love what you did with Arvell Reese. These two guys, because even Jack Kelly is having a solid camp. So it's a good problem to have, and it's one that I'm curious about. But if a guy like Micah McFadden, I don't want to trade him, because you never know what's going to happen. But if a guy goes down like Edmonds, I'm happy that we have McFadden, and I'm happy that he's, doing well.
I agree. I mean, I like Mike McFadden. Big fan of McFadden. I was up. It really, I think, had an impact on his defense a year ago when he went down in the first game of the season. But yeah, I mean, I think now it's like you said, it's a great problem to have, because when Edmonds needs a blow, when Arvell Reese might need a blow, you know what I mean? You got a guy that you can still count on to come in, and he might not give you exactly what those guys give you, because I mean, just from an athletic standpoint, he's just not the freak of nature that those two are. But at the end of the day, you got a competent guy that can come in, and he's playing kind of a little more loose, you know what I mean? Because the pressure's not on him. He knows this. He understands his role now. He knows he's a rotational piece. He's going to be a guy that gets rotated in. The reps are going to be a little more limited than they have been for him the last couple of years here. But at the end of the day, you get a fresh McFadden coming in to get these guys a blow here and there. The defense won't really miss a beat too much, you know what I mean? So I think the New York Giants are really in a good situation with that linebacker in their linebacker room as well. Like you said, brought up Jack Kelly as well. I mean, he's already, from what I'm hearing, leapfrogging Mulasau in the practice reps. So that's exactly
that wasn't that hard to do. But
let's get the garbage out, and let's keep the players here. You know what I mean? The guys that are players, man. And
you're right. But you know what? It's funny that you mentioned Matt McFadden. There's something that just popped in my head, right? If you want to keep Arvell Reese on the field, and let's say you want to take Kayvon off and put Carter, Burns, and Reese on the field, you can do that, and then you can put in McFadden in place of Reese to be a run stopper or be a guy that can help out on certain packages. What I think is allowing this defense to happen with a guy like Reese and McFadden and some of these role players, you're going to see where they can interchange these guys, right? On third down, what the third down package is. Are you going to kick Kayvon inside because now you have extra body here and an extra body there, right? So there's a lot of versatility, because DJ Reader and Shelby Harris are probably starting, and then you have Darius Alexander, and then you have your linebackers. I already showed you the depth chart. I know that. Let's get into this depth chart, because I know a lot of people say it's unofficial, official. To me, it shows me where they see people standing. They don't have to make the depth chart. They tell you it's unofficial, but listen. Coaches do this for a reason. They put one out for a reason. They let it dribble out, right? And it just, to me, shows some things. And one of the things that it shows me is the versatility that they're going to have. They don't really have a front four. They have a 3-4 kind of hybrid type look, where you can use either Arvell Reese or Brian Burns as the extra lineman, but he's set up as the outside linebacker. You have Tremaine Edmonds, the middle linebacker, and the quote-unquote Sam linebacker is Arvell Reese. Now, if you want to make him an extra edge, this is where you can put in a McFadden. And I think you have to look at some of the things that they're putting out there and really kind of see what happens on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it, because I want to see guys like McFadden. I want to see guys in the back end of this roster make the team. And, I know that we're going to get into this depth chart, but I have a lot of things that I think it means, right? I know Tyler Nubin's not starting, but he's on the depth chart. But from all intents and purposes, Tyler Nubin's probably not even going to make the team at the way he's going. I mean, yes, he's going to make the team. He's a second-round pick, but Darius Washington's having a good camp. Jason Pinnock's having a good camp. Why am I going to subject myself to Tyler Nubin, right, when I can have Pinnock on the field? Holland's had a solid camp, right? I mean, there's a lot of question marks going in, and this depth chart is kind of put a lot of questions back out there, like Darius Slayton being receiver number 2. Do I think he's receiver number 2? No, but that shows me that what they feel about him. And then they have Odell Beckham at 7.
He
right?
stacked some good practices late in this past week, man. He stacked some good practices.
Right. So has Malachi Fields and even Mooney. So again, when I think of all these guys that they're going to keep, and I don't think they're keeping a full 7 receivers. I think they're keeping 6.
They're not going to be able to keep 7. No way.
Well, now, I mean, think about it. Thomas Fidone is now having a good camp. How do I not keep him on the roster? Right. Let's say he ends up having a good game on Saturday. Right, Saturday 1:00 when the Minnesota Vikings come to town. Let's say it's a good game. Now you have Picard, who is a fullback. I can't count him as a tight end anymore. Does that mean I have to take from the running back room? Who Eric Gray got shouted out today by John Harbaugh. So there's going to be a lot of things where roster juggling, where maybe you have to have 5 receivers on the roster, and then you have to keep a sixth receiver on the practice squad who you can bring up. So like a Barrios, who is a leading punt returner at this moment, or Calvin Austin, who may or may not make the team. I think Austin's going to make the team just because they paid him money. If he's anywhere near it, he's going to make it. But then when you do with guys like Beckham, Barrios, and Smith-Schuster, right? Who do I feel goes on the practice squad? I don't think you can put Odell on the practice squad legitimately and say, hey, we want you here. He either needs to make the team. But then again, if you look at it and you have Mooney, you have Slayton, you have Fields, and you have Neighbors as your top 4 targets, not to mention Isaiah Likely, and you're keeping Theo Johnson. That's 6 guys I named right there that is not named Odell Beckham Jr. So that's why I'm saying this is an interesting way of doing things, because they look like an 11 personnel team. And not to mention, I think they're looking for a running back out there at some point. I know next year in the draft, if they don't get a big receiver or running back in free agency, they're definitely going to be on the priority list next year. Hopefully you can keep a DJ Reader and a Shelby Harris for one more year with Darius Alexander and fill that hole with like a backup guy. But they really are lacking in that department. But I'm glad. I hate to say this. I'm not glad that Slayton's doing well, because I hate that guy. But the fact that he's doing well, and the fact that Mooney's having a good practice, and Malachi Fields is also doing well, and you have Neighbors who's coming back and making some burn, I don't know if the 4th or 5th receiver is going to see any time. So you really have to be a punt returner. And if that means I have to take Braxton Berrios over Odell because he's a punt returner, and I have more of a need for that and more versatility for that on the back end, especially because you're looking at right now, Malachi Fields is playing special teams, Austin and Barrios. They just put, Beckham back there on punts. But do I really think that 33-year-old guy is going to be a punt returner? No. Juju Smith-Schuster, he lost his chance when he injured his knee. He had a chance to do it. So, I know I'm running around with a lot of things. I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of the things I mentioned, and your thoughts on the depth chart.
Well, I mean, I honestly don't put that too much stock into the depth chart before the first preseason game, because it'll be different next week. It'll probably most likely, depending on how this game goes and what guys show you in this game, it'll be different next week. Again, anyway, I mean, it's just going to be that thing going through the preseason. So I try not to get too crazy about it, because I think it's just like you said, it kind of gets you see where maybe these coaches see things kind of right now, like today, as of like today, this week going into that first game. But then Saturday will come, and who knows, Thomas Fidone scores a couple of touchdowns, and we're having a whole different conversation, you know what I mean, about where he is on the depth chart, because Thomas Fidone at least catches the football. Theo Johnson, okay.
Let's keep it there. You have another guy, tight end there, and Chris Manhertz, who blocks and catches. Are you really going to cut a second-round pick over a 7th? I don't. I think they would keep all 4 because they all serve a purpose. So that leaves, where am I pinching pennies? I don't want to pinch pennies in the O-line because there's a bunch of guys already banged up, right? I don't want to pinch pennies with the DB room because I'm going to need as many guys there as possible. I may need to keep an Art Green or something like that. So the only place you can really, to me, pinch is the wideout position. And when you look at it, I need a guy on the 5th player in that group to at least be like a Slayton or a Mooney or whoever in that position. And then my 6th guy needs to be able to play special teams, because if Slayton isn't doing it and Beckham isn't doing it, that leaves me with 2 other guys on the roster. And I can't have that when I'm building a special teams. And he loves special teams. You know that he loves special teams. So if it means keeping a special teams player, this is where I'm juggling the thing. And Jalen Hyatt, not for nothing, has also made, I'm not saying he's catching up, but his name has been mentioned and bandied about again. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Like, you're right. The depth chart's going to change. Guys are going to get injured in this preseason game. I hope nothing catastrophic, but guys are going to get banged up and may not make it, or their stock will rise or drop due to their performance. So I understand it. But what I'm saying is, for a first look, it's kind of interesting to see what the coaches are seeing, because the coaches had to make it up. It's not like they just threw a fucking darts at a wall and said, here we go. They were just like, they made an actual thing to bring it out to the NFL, knowing that it would be scrutinized, knowing that it would be talked about by guys like you and I, and maybe I have a different view than you do about it, but they brought it out for a reason. So now if next week that depth chart changes, good. It means the coaches are doing their job and they're evaluating the roster and they're making the charts and they're showing the progress of these people by updating that depth chart. So again, I know you're saying it's not much stock. To me, it's just a way right now. It's a rough draft of what they think the position battles look like right now. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just what it is. But I still let's talk about the game a little bit Saturday, because we do got to kind of move this along a little bit. But Saturday against Minnesota, I expect the starters to play a little bit. Harbaugh hasn't made any really official announcements, but I expect to see the starters get some work, especially offensively, because they need some work clearly. But he did mention that Odell Beckham will definitely be playing on Saturday. It won't be sitting out for him on Saturday. So it's I think this is going to be an opportunity for these guys to start solidifying and themselves a little bit and positioning themselves, because like you said, when it gets to that receiver room, it's going to be some decisions to be made, man, because they want to think they might keep about 6 receivers, but there's a possibility where maybe they only go with 5, man, on the active roster, as far on the active 50, on the active 53, man. Who knows? Because like you said, you don't want to take nothing away from the offensive lineman, and then the tight end situation is with Fedoni coming in the way he's practiced the past week. He's making that whole situation a little more interesting too, man. So it's going to be a lot to figure. You figure a guy like him, for instance, he'll be a type of guy. Fedoni, you would expect to see get a lot of reps on Saturday. I mean, a whole lot of reps. Like you said, Odell Beckham, some of these other receivers on the back end. I'd like to see. I think you see a lot of Dalen Cambry, Barrios, Odell. These guys. I think we'll see a lot of those guys getting a lot of playing time, and I think we'll see starting offense maybe for a series or two, probably. I would think. Like I said, at the very least, and then maybe see the starting defense out there a little bit as well, to see these guys flying around and hitting somebody that's not their own teammates. Because I know I'm excited to see Arvell Reese, but I want to see CC out there too. I would like to see CC out there get some work as well. And I mean, I wouldn't even be too mad about seeing CC stay out there, get a little work with the second team a little bit, maybe possible, just to see him kind of to continue getting a little bit of. Because as far as an offensive lineman goes, I mean, I think that'll be invaluable for him, man. I mean, especially considering that the kind of limited work they get in practice, considering the way the hitting everything is with the hitting and this and that, and it too much. Need to see these offensive linemen get they I want to see them get a little dirty, man. I want to see these guys get some work, man, and I would love to see him get plenty of work on Saturday as well, man. So I don't know what you expect. Maybe, John, like I said, Harbaugh has not really said too much about what he plans on doing with the starters on Saturday. But would you expect to see him out there and get some work?
With what Harbaugh does, I do expect to see a series or two, especially since some things that I have seen that have been concerning. And one of the things I heard Jordan Renan point out is the offense has been struggling a little bit, right? And this is a time you want to see them get out of that funk against somebody other than your defense. And I think they need that reps. I think holding them back in this new offense doesn't do anything. You don't want the first time that Jackson Dart comes out there is against the Cowboys, and that's his first real game reps that he's had in this offense that he is clearly having some struggles with. Now, the reason they're having some struggles, which is Jordan Ahn brought up in a podcast I was listening to, he said apparently there are three different cooks in the kitchen when it comes to the offense, and he's trying to learn three different things into one offense. So the footwork and the timing and a lot of the things they're asking the entire line to do, he's trying to figure out, and there's been some frustration and some communication mishaps. Also, Jim Nagy said something that kind of concerns me, but I'm not sure. He said, we only have installed half of our offense. I'm like, you're only installed half of it. They're having this much struggle. I don't want to know what the second half looks like. Now, I know it was a throwaway line, but to me, when you've been in the offense since April, right, in OTAs and mini camps, it's not like this is unfamiliar territory. It's not like they left in April, haven't worked on it like in the 1980s, where they didn't meet till July, right? And now you're doing the offense from scratch. So that is a little concerning to me. So that's why I would play these guys in the preseason, especially because you got young guys like Arvell Reese and Malinois who are going to be playing prominent roles. You need them to get as much experience now before you don't want trial by fire in game one. I don't want that. You're going up against Kenny Clark and Kenyon Williams. The last thing I want is for CC to be overwhelmed in the middle because he didn't get enough reps with, his team. You can only do so much in practice before you know the guy across from you, before I know Darius Alexander's moves. I don't know Quinton Williams, or Kenny Clark's moves. I can send them on tape, but I don't want to be the first real action is that. I rather, go against some real competition, learn from my mistakes that I'm going to make in the preseason to help me go forward. I just think asking those guys to not get any reps is ridiculous. I know what people think about in the preseason. And I'm not wishing this upon anybody, but if any of these teams have one of their starters go down, you're going to see it. But let's be honest, these joint practices that you're seeing are becoming the games, right? So teams that have joint practices, they're going to not play their starters because they had a joint practice. They don't need to. Guys like the Giants who need to work, you should play. And I think they should play on defense as well because you have a whole new system. Now, let's fast forward real quick. If this was 2027 preseason, I would be, and they already had a year in the system, I'd probably be saying the opposite. Don't play Dart. Don't play certain guys. But because you are year one, I think they need to get some real time.
Absolutely agree. That's what I mean. This team, let's talk about the offense a little bit too, because they've been struggling, like you said, at practice and whatnot. But are they struggling because they're not really getting the full grasp of it, or are they struggling because Denard Wilson is throwing everything at them defensively, which is what I've been hearing some things that Denard Wilson's holding absolutely nothing back in these practice sessions. And this defense just possibly that good that they say the old saying, iron sharpens iron, you know what I mean? Is this in a sense could be turn out to be beneficial for this offense because they're going against this defense like Abdul Carter and Arvell Reese and Thibodeau and Burns and these guys flying around the way they've been flying around. Is that a possibility? Do you think that's even at least a possibility of what's going on? Because what I'm hearing about Jackson Dart is that he still looks overall, for the most part, he kind of seems to have command of the offense. Some things have been getting away from him, but overall, he's still not really looking like he's not necessarily looking terrible out there.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. You're playing against your team. You want to do well. I think the struggles are coming from everybody trying to learn the system together and then making different untimely mistakes, right? And I think when you get to the games, that's why you need to play the game so that you can play out what you've been playing out against your offense. And for me, I think the defense has been a little better. I think they have done well in certain times. But at certain times, the offense hasn't been a complete disaster. They did score points in the red zone, and they've had some things. It's been pretty even. When I always look at preseason games is this, right? Can it be that the defense is that bad, or can it be that the offense is struggling because our defense is that good? I haven't think it's a combination of both. I think it's a combination of the defense being better, getting everything thrown at them. They're also learning a new system together in trying to get everybody in their right places. I also think that their offense is not great yet. They have no identity, so we don't really know. According to Pat Leonard, they're not opening many holes. Now that's a good thing because that means DJ Reader and company are doing their job, but also it means they may not be breaking as many big runs. So will they struggle? And what I'm looking at is the receiving core in general, right? That's what I'm worried about offensively. I think they're going to be a heavy run team. So we'll see against the Cowboys. But I'm not really concerned right now. I'm just taking it as growing pains for the first year of the offense with three. You got to understand they got three different cooks in the kitchen. They got Brian Callahan, Matt Nagy, and Greg Roman, and you're trying to put that all in one package together to say, "Hey, kid, learn this," and everybody else learn this, and it's hard, right? Especially because everything is different terminology for every different person. So, again, I'm not concerned about it. I'm excited. I haven't really been concerned about Jackson Dart's struggles the same way as I would be with previous regimes and the previous offense. I just think they're working some of the kinks out right now. That's what I think they're doing.
Yeah, and just wanted to touch on one more thing. Like I said, going into this game Saturday, do have the only real major injury concern right now is JMS dealing with the concussion, so obviously he will not be out on the field on Saturday. And and the one problem with that also is that not only is JMS dealing with the concussion, then the backup center Lucas Patrick is also dealing with a knee thing too. So now you got you down. Your top two centers are both out, or both not.
Misty Hudson's going to play a lot.
Are not practicing, so we'll see, man. We'll have to see how that. We'll have to keep an eye on that for sure. But right now, so far, the Giants they've had a couple of things, little small things, but nothing too major right yet. What is going on, Miz? Popping in, bro.
The interesting part about that is a lot of people have been talking about this backup center and what he's done. So this is his time to kind of cement himself either as a starter or a competition to JMS. There is some concern with JMS in terms of his injuries. He's been injured a lot his career, from stingers to now a concussion. And let's be honest, those things for a lineman are far worse than maybe a receiver. I mean, a receiver can get hit badly, but an offensive lineman, you're getting hit every play. Every play, you're getting hit by somebody. You're getting tackled or roughed up. And I just don't want to see him come back early and get banged up. However, let's see if this kid Hudson can seize the job, right? He's a little bigger, a little bit more girthier. There is some things they do like about him. There's been many people who are kind of, seem intrigued by him, and it's going to be intriguing to see him play probably the entire game, or at least the first half at least, because you're going to have to move a lot of people around on the offensive line with all these banged up injuries that you have, because, that guy played guard as well. You lost Schlottman, right? That he's over in Tennessee right now. And, the guy that I'm really looking forward to seeing is J.C. Davison, right? I want to see if he can play some tackle or if he'll be kicked into guard, because the Runyon, I don't believe, is going to be on this team next year. And at some point, you're going to need to find out if one of these linemen, whether it's Marcus Bowe, whether it's J.C. Davis, one of these guys can play guard for you before you go shopping next season. So, football is a game of backups. You really have to have good depth. And this is the chance for a team like the Giants to really evaluate some things. And what I'm reading about the depth chart is, like, Evan Neal made it over some guys to the second team. Somebody brought up a good point. Are they trying to fluff up, because this is an unofficial depth chart, the trade value for a guy like Hyatt and Neal? If you put them on the second team, the trade value might go up, and they're like, oh, they're moving up the ladder, and maybe they can bamboozle somebody, or did they really earn it? So it's interesting to see. I want to see, like, this is what I'm looking forward to on Saturday. My things that I'm watching Dart in a series. Let's see how he does. I'm going to look for Fields, see what he does. I'm interested in seeing the backup running back behind, if they can see somebody if someone could steal the third running back position from Singletary, I'm hoping to see Bankston, Turbo Miller, and Eric Gray a little bit more. See those guys more so than Tracy and Cam. I'm looking forward to the backup linemen, J.C. Davis. See if Azudu has improved. See what Neal is going to bring to the table. On the flip side, defensively, I want to see what Darius Alexander can do. I want to see some of these young cornerbacks. Art Green has been talked about all off season, so I'm looking forward to seeing if he can translate. I want to see how long they play Deontay Banks with the injuries at cornerback. That is something that you want to monitor going forward. You may not want to play him as much, even though he may need the reps because of just who's down for the game. So I'm excited for it. Football's finally back. I don't have much else on the Giants. Let's go Big Blue.
Yeah, pretty much, man. That's a good way to sum things up, man. Like you said, just want to get a look at some of these guys. Like I said, I want to see the young guys and see some of these, because I think the New York Giants have put together this roster, and it's probably some of the best depth that we've had. So I'm a little bit curious. What's going on? Seeing you in a long time. What's going on, Colts, Cowboys, man? Good to see you, brother. I hope everything's going good with you, man. But
see you week 1.
Absolutely. We'll see you week 1, bro. We'll be there. And it ain't gonna be like it was the last time. That ain't happening again. Not like that. It's not gonna be like that anyway. That's for damn sure. But
which game are we talking about? The 40-0 drubbing or the shootout?
I'm talking about the 40-0 just annihilation of the New York Giants on that cold, rainy night up in MetLife Stadium a couple of years ago. It's not going down like that.
It could still be a beatdown. We can actually score points, but I'm not. I think it'll be a lot closer than people think.
So Miz says he'll be at the Miami game next week. Says driving down and up in New York for week 3 versus the Titans. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna get ready to wrap things up as we have hit the 2-hour mark, basically almost hit the 2-hour mark, man. And it's time to get ready to wrap things up for the night, man. Get ready for some preseason action tomorrow night. Got about 5 or 6 games tomorrow. Got some more on Friday, and then we got the Big Blue on Saturday afternoon, y'all.
When we come back, we'll have games to talk about and things to actually critique.
Absolutely. We'll be able to talk about what we saw from some of these young guys and these players and get some answers, maybe get a few answers to some of these questions that we got. But I am Mac the Giants fan. This is my guy, the super dope co-host Adam Costas, man. Make sure y'all go like and subscribe. And we'll be back next week. Same time, next Wednesday. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you was feeling this, please take time to subscribe and smack them likes. Feel free to drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to ring that bell so you know when I'm dropping new content. It's your boy, Mac the Giants fan. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Mac the Giants fan. That's MACDA Giants fan. It don't cost a thing to hit that like button. Just do it. Do it.